Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you to everybody who led the chanting, Ritesh Prabhu, Om Prabhu, Shunat Prabhu, Meenakshi Mohini. Okay, I'll start with Mangalacharan and then singing of our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, continuing with Vrinda Devi Ashtakam for this week. This is our prayer of the week. Anybody would like to sing today? Okay, then I'll continue. Vrindadevi Ashtakam by Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Gangeya Champeya Tadedvinindi Rochihi Pravaha Snapitatma Vrinde Bandhuka Bandhu Dyuti Devya Vaso Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bimbadharoditvaramandahasya नासाग्रमुक्ताद्युतिदीपितास्ये विचित्ररत्नाभरणश्रियाध्ये वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं समस्तवैकुण्ठशिरोमणौ श्रीकृष्णस्य वृन्दावनधन्यधाम्नि दत्ताधिकारे वृषभानुपुत्र्य वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वदज्ञया पल्लवपुष्पभृङ्ग मृगादिभिर्माधवकीलिकुञ्जा मध्वादिभिर्भान्ति विभूष्यमाण वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वदीयदूतेन निकुञ्जयूनोर् अत्युत्कयोकेलिविलाससिद्धिः त्वत्सौभगं केन निरुच्यतां तद् वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् रासाभिलाषो वसतिश्च वृन्दा वने त्वदीशाङ्घ्रिसरोजसेवा लभ्या च पुंसां कृपया तवैव वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् त्वं गीत्यसे सात्वततन्त्रविद्भिर्लीलाभिधाना किल कृष्णशक्तिः तवैव मूर्तिस्तुलसीन्द्रलोके वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्ष्यै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दाष्टकं यः शृणुयात् पठेद्वा वृन्दावनाधीशपदाब्जभृङ्गः स प्राप्य वृन्दावननित्यवासं तत्प्रेमसेवां लभते कृतार्थः वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. श्री वृंदा देवी अष्टकम की जय. श्रीला विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय. श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय. Anyone can read the translation today? Okay. Meenakshi Mohini. All right, Meenakshi Mohini would like to read. Okay. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. You are bathed by the stream of splendor that rebuke gold, lightning, and the champaka flower. Your splendid garments are friend to the banduka flower. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. Your face is splendid, with a pearl decorating the tip of your nose and a wonderful gentle smile on your bimba fruit lips. You are decorated with wonderful jewel ornaments. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. Vrishbhanu's daughter, Radha made you guardian of Krishna's opulent and auspicious abode of Vrindavan, the crestwell of all Vaikuntha lands. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. By your order, the groves where Madhav enjoys pastimes are splendidly decorated with blossoming flowers, bumblebees, deer, honey, and other things. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. Because you became their messenger, the eager and youthful divine couple enjoyed the perfection of transcendental pastimes in the forest. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. By your mercy, the people attain residence in Vrindavan. The desire to serve your master's lotus feet and the desire to assist in the rasa dance. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. They who are learned in the Satvata Tantra glorify you. You are Krishna's pastime potency. The Tulasi plant is your form in the world of men. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. O merciful one, they who have no devotion and they whom millions of offenses have thrown into the waves of lust and other vices, take shelter of you. O Vrinda, I bow to your lotus feet. A person who is like a bumblebee at the lotus feet of Vrindavan's king and queen, and who reads or hears this Vrindashtakam will eternally reside in Vrindavan and attain loving service to the divine couple. Jai Vrindavan ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, thank you. The time is 6:08. Okay. 6:07 we were reading this, and with the mercy of the Shad Goswamis. Thinking of number 7, yesterday Prabhupada was wrapping up number 7th canto and started the 8th canto. So, and he was glorifying his Guru Maharaj and the Guru Parampara, who have given us this mercy with which he is able to do without taking any credit for himself. He was giving all credit back to his Guru Maharaj and just trying to please him by serving his instructions. So, like that, the number 7 also reminds us that, like we said, we are reading these prayers 7 days a week, which is our weekly prayer. Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill for 7 days and 7 nights. So like that, Prabhupada finished Canto 7 yesterday. And Canto 7 is very, very dear also because, like Prabhupada also referencing Prahlad Maharaj yesterday. And Prahlad Maharaj, the instructions are there in the 7th canto. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar Pandit, Srimati Radharani, they would used to take a lot of pleasure, divine pleasure, in just reading the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and his instructions in 7th canto. So 7th canto is very, very special. We are in the 7th Manmantra currently, which are there are 14 Manmantras in Kalpa, in Day of Brahma. So we are in the 7th Manmantra. And yeah, we have 7 days, like we said, all of us, like Parikshit Maharaj heard Bhagavatam for 7 days. We also have 7 days in our lives because our life can end at any time. We have Sunday to Saturday, 7 days in the week. So we also have 7 days, just like Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj's number of letters is also 7. Prahlad is 7 characters. Maharaj is 7 characters. So a lot of significance about number 7. And that is what Prabhupada accomplished yesterday. But again, what we learn from him is he didn't take any credit for himself. He just gave everything to his Guru Maharaj. And he didn't stop at 7. He continued to number 8, which is Ashtami, which is also very dear because that is the day of Janmashtami and Radha Ashtami. So, yeah, wonderful learnings from Prabhupada yesterday. And we also learned how he didn't focus on what was accomplished already, but what was to be accomplished. Right? So immediately after finishing 7th canto, he started the 8th canto. And he also taught many other practical lessons, everything basically, all the Navada Bhakti, was we can see from Prabhupada. He was focusing on Shravanam Kirtanam. He was saying we should chant 24 hours a day. He was also referencing these meetings that we have, meetings with, decisions or dissolutions or whatever he was calling as revolutions, and finally no solutions. Everything will be solved if we have chanting of the holy names. That is the foremost. So he was saying, yeah, we should all, and the disciples were saying about America, they were doing 12 hours, 24-hour kirtan. He said, yes, that is what should go on everywhere. So he was focusing on Shravanam Kirtanam. He was focusing on Vishnu Smaranam, which is the embodiment of Prahlad Maharaj, who is Vishnu Smaranam. He focused on Pada Sevanam. He was circumambulating Shri Shri Radha Madhav in Mayapur, right? And he was showing how to do Pada Sevanam, ringing the bell. Of course, he sings all these wonderful prayers through Archanam, or sorry, worshipping of the deities through Archanam, and then singing of prayers with Vandanam. And he was fully surrendered to his Guru Maharaj's instruction as Dasyam. And he was glorifying Krishna everywhere he went. That's why we see all these professors now are reciprocating from all over the world. So that is Sakyam. When you are a dear friend with somebody, you share, what you love about your dear friend with everybody. So that's what Prabhupada does as Sakyam. And of course, he is fully given his body, mind, and words, Atma Nivedanam. So the Navada Bhakti is complete in Srila Prabhupada, and we can learn from his day-to-day example of how to lead our lives. Okay, let's continue. The Vedic literature. Continuing chapter 50. The Vedic literature mentions various spiritual paths and forms of yoga, and unless the commentator has realized the highest Vedic conclusion, he can easily miss the essential message of the Bhagavatam. Indeed, the impersonalist commentators have attempted to use the Bhagavatam to support their speculations that the individual soul is in all respects one with the Supreme, even though this contradicts the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. As a commentator on the Vedic literature, Srila Prabhupada was distinguished even among Vaishnava scholars because of his being in disciplic succession from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is glorified as Patit Pavan, the savior of the most fallen. As a follower and empowered representative of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada was faithfully and perfectly carrying on the tradition of rescuing fallen souls, bringing them back to their original Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's making Bhagavatam's message available therefore did not mean mere simplification. It meant urgently addressing the reader to give up the world of illusion and take to the eternal liberation of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada was making available to the average reader spiritual truth that had been hidden and unavailable, even to austere practitioners of yoga and learned brahmanas proficient in Sanskrit. Old wine in new bottles, Prabhupada called it. The Vaishnavas' arguments against impersonalism had been chalked out by Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya, and later synthesized by Lord Chaitanya into the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Veda Tattva. Simultaneous oneness and difference. These eternal truths had to be presented in every age. But in the traditional debates between the Vaishnavas and the impersonalists, the authoritative basis had always been Vedic scripture. Modern society, however, was so degraded that a preacher could no longer appeal to the authority of Vedic scripture. No one would accept it. Srila Prabhupada's writings therefore dealt with such theories as the origin of life by chance, Darwinian evolution, and chemical evolution, and he defeated them all with strong logic, establishing that life comes from life, not from dead matter. Prabhupada had dedicated one of his first books, Easy Journey to Other Planets, to the scientists of the world, and had even adapted the Bhagavad Gita verses quoted in that book into scientific jargon of matter and antimatter. Deftly, he used both Shastra and logic to establish the Vedic conclusion. Prabhupada's writings also combated the false teachings of bogus yogis, gurus, and incarnations who had appeared like a tidal wave of falsity in Kali Yuga, both in India and in the West. His writings criticized modern political institutions also, analyzing why monarchies fell, why democracy was also failing, and how dictatorship would increasingly harass the citizens. The government's policies of abusive taxation and their propaganda to bring people to the cities to work in the factories, abandoning simple agrarian life, were all discussed in light of the scriptures. In his travels, Srila Prabhupada had observed the rampant degradation of human society, sexual liberation, the latest fads in intoxication, and the vicious crimes of animal slaughter and meat eating. A Bhagavad Gita purport dealt specifically with the threat of nuclear holocaust. Such people are considered the enemies of the world because Ultimately, they will invent or create something which will bring destruction to all. Indirectly, this verse anticipates the invention of nuclear weapons, of which the world is today very proud. At any moment, war may take place, and these atomic weapons may create havoc. Such things are created solely for the destruction of the world, and this is indicated here. Due to godlessness, such weapons are invented in human society. They are not meant for the peace and prosperity of the world. Prabhupada's criticism was strong and authoritative, befitting a true Acharya. His uncompromising spirit was appealing. He was not a timid scholar pointing out some obscure historical references. Yet, underlying his writing, a humble tone of request spoke to the heart. As the servant of Krishna, he asked everyone to please take up Krishna consciousness and be restored to his original constitutional position of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Prabhupada was making his books practical, but to do so required care and deep meditation. He combined the thoughtfulness of a textual scholar with the practical applications of a transcendental, social, and political reformer. So many scholars had already presented their English editions of Bhagavad Gita, yet not a single reader had become a devotee of Krishna. Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is, however, was creating thousands of devotees. More than simply rendering valuable Vedic literatures, Srila Prabhupada had come to the West, starting in New York City, to establish a way of life based on that Vedic literature. Consequently, he had gained first hand experience in bringing the most materialistic persons to the standard of renunciation and devotional service. His books, therefore, reflected these practical realizations, and many times in his purports, he would relate his difficulties and triumphs in trying to introduce spiritual principles within materialistic society. In the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he had presented the story of Daksha's cursing Narada Muni after Narada had instructed Daksha's sons in pure Krishna consciousness. The jealous father, considering Narada his enemy, had cursed him to be always traveling without any home. In his commentary, Srila Prabhupada had written that he also had been cursed by the parents of his disciples. Therefore, despite his having many centers around the world, he had to constantly travel and preach. And in the seventh canto, while commenting on the demon Hiranyakashipu's harassment of his son Prahlad, Srila Prabhupada had related the difficulties of the ISKCON devotees in distributing books amid the harassment of Hiranyakashipu's modern counterparts. Thus, Prabhupada was imbuing his literature with the thoughtfulness of his own personality, that of a pure devotee faithfully dedicating his body, mind, and words in service to the Bhagavatam. As the word Bhagavata refers not only to narrations about the Supreme Lord, but also to the Lord's devotee. Srila Prabhupada was himself Bhagavat, and through his books, one could gain the inspiration of service to both the book and the person Bhagavat. After 2 weeks in Hawaii, Srila Prabhupada was well into the 8th canto, averaging up to 300 digits daily. His health improved also, although his sleeping remained minimal. Of course, Prabhupada said reflectively, it is very good from the spiritual point of view if you don't sleep much. When news came of a temple president having difficulty with his GBC authority, Srila Prabhupada saw it as another example of how his writing work, his most important preaching, could be hampered by disruptions. He therefore composed a letter addressed to all the governing body commissioners. My dear GBC disciples, please accept my blessings. Over the past 10 years, I have given the framework, and now we have become more than the British Empire. Even the British Empire was not as expansive as we. They had only a portion of the world, and we have not completed expanding. We must expand more and more unlimitedly. But I must now remind you that I have to complete the translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the greatest contribution. Our books have given us a respectable position. People have no faith in this church or temple worship. Those days are gone. Of course, we have to maintain the temples as it is necessary to keep our spirits high. Simply intellectualism will not do. There must be practical purification. So I request you to relieve me of management responsibilities more and more so that I can complete the Srimad Bhagavatam translation. If I'm always having to manage, then I cannot do my work on the books. It is document. I have to choose each word very soberly. And if I have to think of management, then I cannot do this. I cannot be like these rascals who present something mental concoction to cheat the public. So this task will not be finished without the cooperation of my appointed assistants, the GBC, temple presidents, and sannyasis. I have chosen my best men to be GBC, and I do not want that the GBC should be disrespectful to the temple presidents. You can naturally consult me, but if the basic principle is weak, how will things go on? So please assist me in the management so that I can be free to finish the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will be our lasting contribution to the whole world. While maintaining his excellent progress on Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada also got the opportunity in Hawaii to begin another book. His longtime disciple and editor, Hayagriva, wrote, asking to assist Srila Prabhupada in a series of interview commentaries on the Western philosophers. This was the same project Prabhupada had begun with his former secretary, Shyamsundara. But when Shyamsundara had abandoned his duties in ISKCON, he had also misplaced the tapes and transcripts of the considerable work they had done together. Hayagriva proposed to start again, beginning with Socrates and Plato. The process would be that Hayagriva would present before Prabhupada a summary of a particular Western thinker's philosophy. Prabhupada would then respond extemporaneously, giving appreciation and criticism of the philosopher according to the Vedic viewpoint. Prabhupada and his disciples had been enthusiastic about the interviews done in former years, and Prabhupada had even titled the series Dialectical Spiritualism. But when Shyamsundara had misplaced the tapes, the project had dissipated. Now Hayagriva, the former English college professor and original editor for Back to Godhead in America, asked to be allowed to come to Hawaii for reviving the philosophy book and for spending time with Prabhupada. Like various other disciples, Hayagriva had given up strictly following the regulative principles. Srila Prabhupada had come to tolerate the reality that some disciples, even after taking vows of initiation, would be unable to resist the strong pull of the senses and would give up the path of active devotional service in ISKCON. In the early years, he and his followers had reacted with great shock whenever a devotee had gone away. But with time, as the unfortunate event had continued to occur, sometimes even striking down leading trusted disciples, Prabhupada had grown to live with it. But he never stopped feeling bereaved over a lost son or daughter, especially if the disciple had rendered him significant service. And he never withheld his affection from them or his open, loving invitation for them to return. Such a case was Hayagriva, a dear son who had come to Srila Prabhupada during the summer of 1966 in New York. He had given valuable service, but had eventually been unable to follow the simple but strict principles of Krishna consciousness. Now, after suffering the vicissitudes of material life, he had gathered his resolve to come back to his beloved spiritual master. Hayagriva entered Prabhupada's room. "It's your old Hayagriva, Prabhupada," he said, and he fell to the floor, sobbing. Prabhupada gave him a garland and asked him how he and his family were doing. Then, in the presence of the other devotees, Prabhupada related how Hayagriva had been sent by Krishna to help him spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. When Hayagriva said he had never forgotten Prabhupada, even for a day, Prabhupada replied, "And I also never forgot you. I was thinking, has Hayagriva gone away?" I was thinking like that. Prabhupada's voice broke. His eyes filled with tears, and he could not speak. Finally, he asked everyone to leave the room. Prabhupada and Hayagriva began meeting daily, sometimes for as long as 2 or 3 hours. Dialectical spiritualism was again underway, moving side by side with the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Hayagriva was again in his original position at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Although Prabhupada had written to the GBC requesting them to solve ISKCON's problems, he continued to keep informed of the problems as his assistants reluctantly reported to him the bad news. One day, a telegram arrived from Madhudisha Swami, a dynamic GBC man in charge of ISKCON in one region of the US. Madhudisha was having serious difficulty remaining strong in Krishna consciousness. In most cases, the difficulties of Prabhupada's disciples were urges towards sensuality. Almost never did disciples turn against Prabhupada, nor did they often reject the philosophical conclusions of Krishna consciousness. They simply fell victim to Maya's allurements. Madhudisha's telegram was a resignation from the GBC. Although he wanted to continue in devotional service, he felt forced to resign due to spiritual weakness. The telegram gave no details, but Prabhupada heard rumors that Madhudisha had had an affair and had left the temple. Prabhupada said that this was his godbrother's main argument against Westerners taking sannyas. They would not be able to maintain the strict vows. He said that a German godbrother of his had also caused disruption by his intimate dealings with women. "What can I do?" Prabhupada said sadly. "I am working with all third-class men, fools and rascals. Things are going on simply by Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada sent a telegram back asking Madhudvisha to come and speak with him. Although he restrained his emotions, the devotees could see that he was distracted. It was another case of a strong, affectionate bond for a son who had rendered wonderful service, a disciple whom he had patiently trained over the years. Again, the possibility of Prabhupada's retiring from active management looked doubtful. Srila Prabhupada said he was trying to engage fools, rascals, anyone to spread Krishna consciousness. He was unable to find strict followers. But what could be done? If someone fell from sannyas, he said, then that person could become a grihastha. But no one should go away. Harishwari mentioned the Chaitanya Charitamrita story of Lord Chaitanya and Chota Haridas. From that story, said Harichari, it appeared to be very difficult for a fallen sannyasi to regain the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. One who falls from sannyas, Prabhupada replied, is called Vantashi, one who vomits and then eats it. So if they become grihasthas again, then how can they get Lord Chaitanya's mercy? Asked Harishari. If the spiritual master gives that facility and makes that arrangement, said Prabhupada, then Krishna will accept the arrangement. And later he can again become sannyasa. It had happened before, and Prabhupada mentioned a few cases where he had asked fallen sannyasis to get married and stay in their service. Of course, it is a shameful position, he said, but what can be done? My godbrothers and sannyasis in India criticize me for giving Brahmana and sannyas initiation and installing deities in the West and allowing women to stay in the temples. But for all that, I am expanding Krishna consciousness. And for all their strictness, they are doing nothing. If I discriminate, then I will again be one alone, as I was in Vrindavan, and again become a mouse. It seems, said Harishwari, that it will take several generations before we can become purified. If one is sincere, Prabhupada replied, he can become purified even within one generation. That same evening, as Prabhupada prepared to stay up all night translating, he was still thinking of Madhudvisha. Nevertheless, he turned to translating the text in the chapter called The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. The chapter told about the king of elephants, Gajendra, who lived on the heavenly planets. One day, Gajendra was bathing in the river along with his wives, when suddenly a crocodile attacked. The crocodile fastened his jaws on Gajendra's leg, and although the elephant was very powerful, he could not release himself from the strong grip of the crocodile while in the water. Thereafter, Srila Prabhupada dictated, because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual water. I can do it very quickly, Prabhupada had said, but I have to meditate, how to prepare it for the common man. How could he convey the significance of this event which happened millions of years ago between two animals on a heavenly planet? How to make it clear and understandable and capture the essence of the significant Sanskrit words and the Parampara comments of the Acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti, Sanatan Goswami, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. In the quiet solitude of his room, Srila Prabhupada began speaking his purport. Hare Krishna. Okay. Yes. It all comes down to essence. And the essence is what our acharyas have given us. There's so many volumes and volumes of literatures, sometimes, and we have very limited time. So what to do, what to read, what not to read, how to read, should we memorize, should we not memorize, what should we keep, how do we apply this in our lives, right? So all of these questions is what Srila Prabhupada, out of his causeless mercy, he took it upon himself, and he has given these wonderful literatures, and he has given the essence from all predecessor acharyas through his Bhaktivedanta purports. Yeah, we just have to take time to read these books, and limited time that we have, we don't have time to read all the Vedas, all the Upanishads. Yes, somebody may want to read them, it's good, but again, the whole point comes down to what is the essence. As a Hamsa, as a Swan Paramahamsa, Prabhupada is, he's just taking the essence, he's taking the water out of the milk and just giving us pure milk, pure nectar. So everything is there in Prabhupada's books. We don't have to go anywhere else. Just have to read Srila Prabhupada's books. And yeah, it's not even that we have to do extensive scholarly work or anything. Just give our time, associate with him through his books, and by that we are directly back at his lotus feet, just as Hayagriva Prabhu is back at Prabhupada's lotus feet after having gone away. So much of troubles, so much of practical challenges he was going through, And yet, what he did at that fag end of his life, concentrating, meditating, and seeking mercy of his Guru Maharaj, of the Acharyas, and giving us these purports is just mind blowing. It's indescribable what he did, in the age of 70 to 81. So yeah, we just have to give some, like Prabhupada is saying, there's a Granth Bhagavat, there's a Sant Bhagavat, right? The book Bhagavat is the Granth Bhagavat, and there is a Sant Bhagavat, which is the devotee Bhagavat, pure devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, Sant Bhagavat. And then there's also Panth. So we have to see with the Granth, with the Panth, and with the Sant, all three. The Panth is basically the the things that come in our lives. So again, whatever come in our life, it is not, we should not say, oh, why this happened to me. It is, this has happened for me. That is what we should think, that whatever is coming in our life, that Krishna sent us this particular thing today in my life, there is a reason behind it. It may be because of my past karmas, that this particular thing is happening to me. But again, out of causeless mercy of our Guru, Parampara, and our Lord, the particular um, issue has been diminished, has been reduced. But whatever comes in our life, on our panth, on our path, is mercy of our Guru, of our Acharyas, of the Lord. So all three, Granth, Sant, and Panth, we should reflect, meditate every day. So so that is the same thing Prabhupada is teaching here. Everything, and while he is a pure devotee, he is focused on the Granth, on the scriptures, and on the Sant, on his predecessor Acharyas. Still on the Panth that he is on, he is facing all these challenges, but it is paining him, but he knows what the mission of his life is, and he's continuing. He's just seeing this, everything that is coming in his life, as something that sent by Krishna, and he's using those to in his purports, right? So like, here he was talking about how this Gajendra and crocodile story from millions of years ago, how can he relate it to the current world? And we see all this, how these disciples of Prabhupada are falling away, prey to the material vices. And Prabhupada is now thinking about how to correlate. And so yeah, so everything that he did, whether it was the modern world politicians, all the problems that we're having in the modern world, and how he correlated back that to in his scriptures, in his books, giving the material world the glimpse of what the spiritual world looks like, and how they can overcome their material problems by following the Vedic civilization. So like that, Prabhupada is correlating everything that's coming on his panth back to the Granth and the Sant. Okay, Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to share anything from today's reading?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you
Dhanvatana
for
Mataji.
Thank you for your beautiful reflections, Prabhu. I was also thinking about what Prabhupada said about temple worship and the fallacy of temple worship without philosophy. So, growing up in India, temple worship comes natural to us, going in the temple, doing whatever our parents did. But without philosophy, it is very easy to deviate, deflect, or get allured by something else that comes in the way. So what Prabhupada said, that these books are the most important in our movement, is very true. That whatever we have right now is because of Prabhupada's books. Whatever we know is because of Prabhupada's books. So I was just reflecting on that, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure many of us have been inspired by after reading Srila Prabhupada's books. At least I am. My case is like that. My first love was with Srila Prabhupada's books. When I started reading his books, it was just opened a different dimension.
Mhm. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, anybody else would like to share anything? Anything from your own panth? Anything that is happening in your life that you're able to correlate. Okay, maybe you can meditate on that as we go through our day today and share anything that comes to your mind in terms of your personal realizations. Okay, so with that, let's conclude today. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णवृंद की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद लीलामृत की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.
हरि हरि बोल.
Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful, bhaktiful, blissful day.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.